It was fun this morning to wake up and realize, this is the day I get to be with my friends. So thank you for being here. This is lovely. And here in California, it's raining, which we don't get that often. And so that's just been beautiful to look out and see all of the barks of the trees are darker. And you just have the kind of lighting that happens when it's raining. Everything is wet and seems darker green and just so beautiful. I love it.
Lori,
Yeah.
sorry, Carrie, I'm just moving into my classroom, so I won't be able to hear you
Oh,
for a minute. But I just had to tell you it's raining in Vegas too. So
oh no, really?
yeah, isn't it awesome?
Yeah, that is fabulous. I love when weather systems go through. Carrie, it is so good always just to see you and have you pop in.
It's good to be here. I'll be listening in just a minute.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. All right, women, we have gathered together to talk about whatever is on your heart. And you know that we're open always to anything, whatever it is that you're thinking about, learning, feeling, all of that is good stuff. Um, and the other thing is we talked about at the end of last week, we talked about the 5 things. And I invited you to look at the 5 things. There is a take 5 that is entitled The 5 Things to see if there was anything there that just stood out to you that you thought was a lovely thing that was helpful to you. If you want to know where it is, it's in this book, the resource book, numbered volume 2. That's where all the take 5s are listed. And it's, I don't know, page 300 and something, 20 something, I think. Yeah, 324. And it goes over what Marlene calls the 5 things. And I think it's an interesting thing that Marlene kind of struggled with this idea of using the word things. Like, can't I come up with something more meaningful, something more beautiful to describe this? But this is what she came up with every time, was it just came to the 5 things, the 5 things. So did anyone have a chance to look over that? Did you want to discuss those things a little bit today? And I just had a discussion with someone this morning about this downtime, this quiet pause after a question. Remember, we're comfortable with it. It's all right. It's a safe space. We have time to think about and process the questions. And she actually said something about, I wish I could remember things. It was just within the last 20 minutes, but something about silence being a great conversation language. Anyway, I just love it. Okay. Melanie's saying, I wasn't here last week, but I've listened to it before. Can you refresh my memory? So yeah, Lindsay.
Well, I have the 5 things written down, and I thought I would remember most of what I thought about them, but I'm looking at my list and I understand freedom. You can't like force anybody to learn. That whole idea of like compulsory learning doesn't work. Like we need to have freedom to learn. And mother, we all know about how important the influence of a mother is. And the arts, music, poetry, stories, fine art, those things, we understand the importance of those. And then I get to balance and I'm like blank, like, what did she mean by balance? I can't remember. And
Heart versus mind.
Heart and mind, that's right. And I was just watching that new video she just put out with heart, mind, and spirit. And I love a good graph. And so I love that one. She talks about all these examples of how it starts with the heart and then goes to the mind and then the spirit and all those things. And then inside out. And I love that. And it's still like, my mind hasn't wrapped around it completely. This idea of like, there's no limit to what we can grow to become, I guess is how I'm understanding it. Mm-hmm. That the Lord will work through us, like from the inside, and expand and grow. Like I said, my mind's just like can't wrap around that concept quite yet. But
no, that's a good reason for us to discuss it, right? As we go over and over these things, then we help. It's that layering, right? And then Morgan, is that your first name? Yes, perfect. Okay. I just thought, oh gosh, I hope I'm remembering right. Okay. So Morgan listened this morning after the email that I sent out. So wonderful. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. And then Marley's going to share a little with us too. I love that. Thanks, Marley.
Oh, hello. I think it helps if you know the 5 things what. And Marlene gives different language to this, but the 5 things that are going to heal the world. And as we meet in a MOA group, this is wonderful, and we're feeding our hearts and doing lots of things. But ultimately, we're working together to shift culture. And I think that's why those 5 things are so important. And you won't get them from just reading a Take 5. That it comes from an understanding and a pondering on what do those 5 things mean. So I, of course, am super passionate about mothers are vital, because I think mothers of influence was created to answer or address that. Mothers are vital. And we say, oh, we're important, but do you really understand that you're vital? You're vital to culture. And the things that we're doing here, and as you learn more about Well-Educated Heart, and as you do your personal religious practices, and as you knit your heart with other women, that's vital work, because it deepens your root, it increases your inspired learning, and it cultivates an encircling reach. It's blessing children and families and communities. Sorry, you shouldn't let me talk because I talk too much.
We should let you talk every time, and it's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I love it. I love this 5 things. I love this idea of us getting more comfortable with it, getting more familiar with it as we discuss the 5 things. If these are the 5 things that can heal the world and we're part of it, then what an exciting thing to learn more about, so that we can use this and think about it as we're going through our days. So shall we review it a little bit? Is that all right if I go through some of those things with all of you? And then if anyone wants to jump in, well, Laura's going to jump in right now, which is wonderful.
I just
Hello,
wanted to
my
add
friend.
hello. I wanted to add to what Marlise was saying about why, and just what Marlene put in there as to why these 5 things are important. And she says that the objective is to find joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, and at least, so the scripture, 2 Nephi 2:27, men are that they might have joy. And that joy, if you look at that footnotes, it's not just to be happy and have life be wonderful and easy and I'm always happy and experiencing this joy. No, it's to become like Heavenly Father. And she even says that in the Take 5, it's to increase our capacity for light, or our ability to receive that light of Christ in our lives. And I love that so much. And when I first started studying the Catch the Vision, that was my huge aha, was that true education, she says, is between God and that child. And so when you're doing these things, you're helping them to listen to their own guidance of what brings them joy. What are their talents and gifts that are going to bless their life forever? Not just, okay, everybody needs to know what 2 + 2 is, but, not, cookie cutter school, but what does your child need that will warm their hearts and bring them closer to Christ and help them fulfill their purpose and their role for their life. So that's, and then I love it. So listening, I also this morning when you sent out that email,
Mm-hmm.
and it just made me feel like, oh man, I feel like I'm doing good, because we do a lot of structured things, but I do feel like I try to guide my kids in doing those things that help them find that joy. And so I love that. And then the inside out, as Lindsay was talking, it made me think of a plant. Like, you can't pull the plant out and look at the roots like a beet or a carrot and say, oh, how is this growing? And then put it back in and say, it's it's watching them grow from the inside, watching their talents and those things grow. And then when they start to shine and those things start to shine, you see the inside of them come out.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah, they liken that sometimes to a flower, as it like a
Yeah.
rose, and it's all closed, the little bud, and then it's just pushing out from the inside and then opens up and it's this beautiful bloom. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that you brought in the joy
I
part of it,
love
because
all
that's the purpose. And she quotes C.S. Lewis, who says something, joy is the serious business of heaven. I love that quote. That is a powerful,
So good.
beautiful quote.
So good.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. And Shari, you had something to say too.
Nope, I just was enjoying it.
Oh, okay.
I just
all
barely
right.
got here, so
Okay, welcome.
carry on.
Wonderful. It's so good. And remember, mamas, if you can, turn on your cameras. If you can, remember, we understand when you can't, but if it's at all possible, we love to see your faces. And we even love to see your children running around in the background. So that's never a problem. We anticipate that. So it's a good thing. All right, so going on, I'm going to just review these 5 things from Marlene's words through the in the Catch the Vision, right, resource library, volume 2. So this is week 20 of the Take 5s, the 5 things. So she's just reminding us of the objective being joy. The objective is joy. What we are doing is directly connected to increasing our capacity for light and thereby increased joy. Isn't that beautiful? So she says, so now the 5 things to keep in mind. And remember, these again are the 5 things that will heal our world. There are people out there praying for peace, praying for understanding about what's going on. What can we do? How do we solve these things? Well, here you go. We've got them right here. All right. So freedom, as Lindsay went over the things, it's freedom, mother, arts, balance, inside out. Those are the 5 things. So we'll just review the 5 things. So freedom, and any of you, if any of these are principles that you're working on or that that you're familiar with, please jump in. So it's not just me. Or if you want to pull open your book and share part of it, please do that. But the first one is freedom. True and lasting learning requires an environment of freedom and choice. Moms come to me all the time asking, how can I let go? How can I let my kids just go and explore these things? It's just so hard because we have a different model and we've become comfortable with that model and it's hard to break away from it. But these are true principles. There is great joy in exploration and discovery. When you structure the learning so tightly, which most curriculums do, you deny so many of those wonderful aha moments when connections are made and your child discovers a truth on his own. It has been said that all true education is self-education, and self-education demands freedom to explore. So that's what freedom is about. Isn't that beautiful? So freedom, number 1. 2 is mothers. Mothers are divinely gifted with attributes and qualities for nurturing the heart, where all lasting learning begins. Mothers are a child's best first teacher. Little reminder in there, doesn't say perfect teacher, doesn't say perfect person without any mistakes. And that's a thing to remember because we can easily take ourselves out of that category because we know our faults. It doesn't take us out of that category.
Can I say something there?
Please. Yes, Shari.
Also, best first teacher. That means we help them light the fires. We help those sparks to start, and we lead them to their next teachers, which are often, don't you think, the people that they come in contact with in the literature that we're reading?
Yes. Yes, exactly. I was hoping you were going to say that because I was thinking, oh, it's the people in the books. It's the people
Yeah.
they read about and connect with.
My sister just said that it was really important to get a mentor, and I was racking my brain and saying, well, who could I get as a mentor? And then it just hit me, man, this month I've had Abraham Lincoln. I've had Abby Deal from A Lantern in Her Hand, both really fantastic. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And for any of you that are in the Well Educated Heart group, this book I shared with Marlene about a month ago, and she bought the book and then she's been quoting from John Snyder ever since then. This book is full of gems, but he talks about how in his room, in his library, he's surrounded by his friends, and talks about the adventures and the journeys that he goes on just while
Who,
sitting right there.
what is that book?
It's got a couple of titles. It's called I Love Books by John Snyder, Snider, or
Okay.
Highways Through Learning. I don't remember.
Okay.
But it talks about why, what, how, and when we should read. And it is just a treasure.
Okay.
Treasure. I've had it for years and years. And it's one of my very favorites. I share things from it frequently because it talks about that principle that we got those, we gained so much from those experiences we learned from reading about other people, the things that they do right, the things that they do wrong, their character. You know, we go on these adventures with them and we learn along with them. And I love that. So yes, we're a child's best first teacher and we lead them to the other mentors that they'll have throughout their lives. I love
And
that. Ida.
I loved what you shared. Shari, is it? Shari?
Mhm. Shari.
I've been thinking a lot about relationships and how important our relationship, like relationships to God are really important, right? So our relationship with him and our relationship with others. And like if you think about like the 10 commandments, like I know many of you have been studying, like you can break those into two parts, like loving and honoring God or loving others, right? And so I was thinking about that in the context of this. As a mother, we have that relationship just naturally with our child, hopefully, right? And it's easy to develop that loving relationship with your child, or it should be, right? Hopefully. Because I think that we are blessed with that. But I was thinking too, like, as you were saying, like we're the first teacher, our job, like how we should relate to other people is teach them about love so that we can point them to God, right? We're just supposed to be directing them. So we're, as mothers, helping eventually point our children to God too, right? Like to help them have that relationship. And so we do that by showing them these good people in books, or even, you know, real people that are mentor them, but also all these good stories and good people to point them to God, to learn these lessons about how to have happiness and joy, right? Like Marlene's talking about. I love that. And this, so it just was like, I was making all these cool connections, thinking about how important relationships are and what our relationship is to other people and to God, and just we're helping point them, you know, here you go. I'm directing you to this person. This is how I have this happiness and joy. Anyways, I love that. And I feel like you can tie it into all the 5 things that she talks about, but especially I was thinking about with the idea of the mother as the first teacher and her character.
Beautiful.
Was it her character? No, she said personality. No.
But what
Yes.
Marlene said, mothers are divinely gifted with attributes and qualities for nurturing the heart. That part, or something different?
Yeah, she said the child looks for something,
Oh, to which it can attach.
The mother's personality, that's what she said. Personality is much more important than her specific teaching skills or methods.
Yes, at the end, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And like the idea of the rose blooming from the inside, like from a fullness. So that makes me think too about, as you're filling your mother's heart, you're filling your heart, right? And you bloom, and then your children are able to see that beauty. So that's how we affect other people, right? They see the joy, they see the beauty in our lives, and then they want that. They want to know what that's about, right? So I loved, those are a couple things that I really loved about that. I'll stop now.
No, don't stop. It's beautiful. I love it. And so, like I put in the chat, that's the importance of having our children's hearts. That's why that is so important. And I'll share a little something from John Snyder from this book. There's so many things. He says, in a very real sense, our companions become our schoolmasters. We may or may not learn from our teachers, but we cannot help learning from our companions. We are built much like houses with doors and windows in the sides. We take in light and knowledge on horizontal lines. We do not get much from the skylight. We are not always particular to gain the goodwill of our teachers, but the opinions of our associates mean much to us. Like lashes from a whip, they drive us on either to ruin or to a nobler life. When choosing our companions, either in life or in books, but especially in books, he says, we should remember that evil is more easily learned than good. What we read and see and hear becomes a part of our life, leaving its influence on our character. Anyway, it goes on, but it's so good. It's so good, reminding us how important those associations, those companions are. So who are your children's companions? Where are they spending their time? Who are they spending their time with? So I love those thoughts, those ideas. So I'll continue on. You cannot teach a child whose heart you do not have. So a loving relationship is vital. The child looks for something to which it can attach. And once it attaches, becomes like that to which it has attached. And that is the reason why, and I should quote this every time, but that's the reason why when moms are coming home and bringing their children home, my suggestion is take 6 months off and just be with your kids. Just play together, hang out together, read together. Please don't worry about the academics. Just work on building that relationship. Then from there, there's no end to where you can go. I mean, it's just this open, you can go anywhere because you've got their heart attached to yours, and you then become that true mentor. Therefore, the force of a mother's personality is much more important than her specific teaching skills or methods. So you don't have to worry about those things, the teaching skills or the methods. Just your personality. So you work on warming your heart, and that's going to be such a blessing to your children. Isn't that kind of a relief to you as a mother? Jen?
I have some thoughts to go along with both the mother and the freedom. That I received the advice the other day, like the reminder, are you a human being or are you a human doing? Like, how do you judge yourself by what you do or by who you are? And I'm like, well, usually by what I do, what I get done, like that's if I'm happy with myself or not, depending on what I got done. But he said, your children don't need you. They just need you to be you, to be with them. Like, and just the power of your love is like, so it does so much. You don't even have to do anything. And I was just like, oh yeah, that's so cool. And you're loved and cherished just by being, who you are and just being with them. And then the freedom, I really, I've studied Thomas Jefferson education a lot, and it teaches a lot of the same principles. And I'm just so grateful that I had that, because it's just so awesome to see what your kids will do when they are given the freedom. Like, I think we have such a fear in our culture that, well, they won't want to do anything or they won't want to learn, but they actually do. Like, and I'm just amazed by what they choose to do and with their freedom. And I'm just like, wow, that's way better than what I would have made them do. And
Exactly.
So it's awesome.
Exactly. And it's hard to believe in that at first, because if they haven't grown up with that and you all of a sudden open up that freedom to them, you'll see them just kind of lying around for a while. And that while could be months. But you have to trust in the process, and it really will be okay. It just, you're going to kind of, for a while as you're waiting. Yeah, Sarah.
Sorry, just had to unmute. I just wanted to add how important it is to also apply these principles to our own learning. That this way of learning doesn't just apply to our kids, that like it's important to allow ourselves to have freedom too. I was just flipping through my own Well-Educated Heart binder, and I was remembering that a few months ago, I made a giant checklist for myself, and I separated it by months, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And it felt very rigid, and I dropped it almost immediately. But I'm learning that if I allow myself freedom, I ask questions and then go find the answers to my questions, and I explore, and I don't have strict high expectations for myself, and I learn so much more.
Would you say freedom equals rabbit holes? I think so
That's
much.
that's a good way to put it.
Right? Because you get to just dive in and you can go all over the place and just go exploring and finding out all kinds of things that are just even minorly related, but it's so much fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Abby, and then Ida.
Hey, so I just loved what she said. And I think that when we do that, we also like make room for God, because sometimes what we want to do is different from what God wants us to learn. And so just having that mindset of not sticking to something and exploring more of what you're interested in just opens the doors for God to help you learn what you need to learn right now. And one thing I learned from listening to the Take 5 that you shared is I think I was getting kind of overwhelmed with Well Educated Heart and the whole rotation. And I kind of quit it for a while. But then like listening to her, she said, it's not necessarily like a way to do things. I don't know how she phrased it, but she said, these are just resources I'm giving to you. And I realized that I was doing Well Educated Heart without actually like reading any of necessarily the books that she's recommended. So I thought that was kind of cool because it helped me to not be so overwhelmed with a Well Educated Heart and everything that she provides for us, but just to dive into what we're interested in.
Right. And I know that's the last thing she wants is for any of us to feel overwhelmed. It's just this huge pool of resources, or that banquet table spread out. And she doesn't want you to come and gorge yourself, with all of that stuff. It's just look and go, oh, I like that. I want some of that today. That sounds really yummy. And that's all that you need to do, just a little bit at a time. And it's just so wonderful. I love that. Okay, Ida, we were going to you next, and then we'll go to Shari.
Okay.
I was just gonna say basically what Abby was saying too. I loved listening to that part where she's like, it doesn't mean that you're using all the books. You might not be using any of them, but you can still be. And I was like, oh, good. That's good. Cause I haven't been. and like that, just like, it's like this banquet, right? And so sometimes I'm like, you know what? Let's watch a movie. What movie should we watch? And I like pull up the rotation and I'm like, this looks like a good movie. Let's watch this. And so, this week we watched The Lost Boys about the Sudanese refugees, and we watched Queen of Katwe, the chess player, and those movies were just so heartwarming and heart stirring for my kids and I. But that was like, and sometimes that's what I do. I'm like, you know what, we need something heartwarming today, like every day, but like I can't think of something, so I pull up the stuff and I'm like, all right, maybe we can find a book here or a story or a movie or some project. And so that it's like it's my reference library. And so anyways, that was kind of like, yeah, okay, we're okay. We don't have to be doing like everything with a checklist and structure.
No. Because it is a philosophy. It is a philosophy, right? It is not a curriculum. It's a philosophy. And that's what you have to remember in your head. I also loved Ida's comment earlier and Abby's reminder that these things also point to God, and we help bring our children to God. Parenting, we do that in the model. You learn to respect and honor and obey your parents for your further future preparation of you shifting that allegiance to God, right? And then in your learning, if you open up and you have this freedom of exploration in your own learning, aren't you showing them this pattern of being open to heaven, for heaven to direct the things that you're learning and experiencing and doing? I love that. Okay, Shari.
I don't want to throw us totally off on a tangent or anything, but as far as the freedom to explore, I'm challenged with how to balance their desire to explore things that are like going to the internet, the easiest, and my kids are starting to ask a lot more for gaming now that summer's approaching. I've got my older kids all did public school, and now I've got the 4 youngers doing homeschool, so I kind of have that merge in the middle. So Yeah, so we quit all games cold turkey a while back, and then we've reintroduced it, and it's kind of been catching on a lot. And I can see that their time is going to start being really gobbled up by this cotton candy that's the most fun and wonderful. Anyway, I don't, you can just ignore that if it's going to take away from the lesson and be a tangent. But if you have something really quick for that, then go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you, just because it's a really important thing to discuss, and so it's something we could go on and discuss further. Either like maybe if you want to join the Marco Polo groups, and we could do that because it's a really good topic. But I would say keeping in mind good, better, best, always good, better, best, good, better, best, and being prayerful about how much time, what you open up to them, because we are mortal, we are human beings. We're going to go the easiest route often in the beginning. But if there are more choices available to us, you'd be surprised if they have a little bit of time to do something simple like that. But then the rest of their open free time, that's not one of the possibilities. They will go to richer things. They really will. You just have to give them the time to lie around being bored for a while before they'll decide to explore something. And I have one that it really took 2 years of letting him just do whatever. And then all of a sudden, oh my goodness, just came alive and learned somebody said, learned far more than I ever would have assigned, far more than I ever would have assigned for him to do. So yes, yep. Sometimes we just need to allow them some freedom to get tired of something like games. Like my girls, when they went to girls camp, the first time they got to take junk food, which we don't really do that much of at home. And all the girls did that. That was a big thing, that they got to take their own stash of whatever. My girls did that the first year and never again, because it made them sick. They felt miserable. They didn't like it at all. And so they chose to never do that in the future. So they learn if we give them the opportunities to learn, but you have to do that within boundaries. And you as the parent you're doing this in partnership with God. And so heaven will give you direction as to the specifics for your children. And don't take that for granted, because he is your partner and he will tell you. He knows those personalities. He knows what they can handle and what they can't. He knows where those boundaries need to be set. And I counted on that. And that was a huge, huge blessing for me. So I love the question, Shari, and we can continue to discuss. I am going to go forward, and I forgot to tell you all in the beginning, I have to shut my camera off at 5 minutes till, because my husband needs it, needs the camera. So I'm going to ask for your help in helping me do that, because I'm not good at, I'm not good at cutting things down. All right. So moving on to the arts, the keys a mother uses to awaken desires in the heart are the arts: music, art or imagery, poetry, and story, and nature. A young child understands these languages of the heart, and they do, don't they? They really do. They teach us. The arts are like living water to a young child's soul, and the mother who immerses her child in these languages in childhood will grow deep roots that will later yield good fruit the rest of their lives. So you can't immerse them in this if you're not immersing yourself in these things. That really is a key part. They'll figure out, they'll see the hypocrisy in that really fast. So, but immersing yourself is not overwhelming. It really isn't. It might sound like that, but it's not. It's just adding these things in and having them be part of your daily life, your daily experiences, immersing yourself in the arts. Oh, I love this, Ida. My son's experience reading Freckles awakened his interest and desire to learn more about butterflies and moths that he didn't really pay attention to before. I love that. Oh, there's so much good there. So much good there. I love that book. Okay, balance. Educating the heart without educating the mind is no education at all. There is a pattern for learning. If you start with the heart through the arts, then a student is ready to master the skills, the rules, the facts of the mind. Heart and mind together become an inspired, creative force. And then, like Lindsay mentioned earlier, the fruit of this heaven-directed kind of learning is that through creation, the culminating action of their learning, they will multiply joy, love, and light in the world. I'm going to read that again. Heart and mind together become an inspired, creative force. And the fruit of this heaven-directed kind of learning is that through creation, which we just get inspired to create through this, using this model, through creation, the culminating action of their learning, they will multiply joy, love, and light in the world. Isn't that beautiful? I see Laura just beaming. She's just like, can hardly contain herself. I love that. It is so beautiful. And we see our children doing that. If we give them these opportunities, we see that. And that is thrilling to me and so beautiful. And that's, you can see, oh, that's how the world is going to be healed. That's how that's going to happen, is through this, doing this. So then to the inside out, the last little section here. The world works outside in. God works inside out. The world is always looking for something to measure. And that's what people ask you about, don't they? Whenever you have people on the outside asking you about your homeschooling, your children, your learning, whatever you're doing, if you're public schooling, but you're adding this in, you know, on the outside, or you're doing it for yourself, they ask you things, things you can measure. God values that which cannot be measured. True education is between a child's soul and God, who will teach that which the world cannot teach. While the world focuses on that which is seen, these things are temporal and temporary. Heaven is concerned with the unseen things, beauty, love, peace, and these riches are forever. They are eternal. The world may teach a child to identify the parts of a rose. Heaven will help a child to feel its beauty. The world may teach that a figure from history was born on a certain date. Heaven inspires the soul with the lessons of life that person left behind. And those lessons almost always have to do with happiness. The world may teach mathematical facts. Heaven teaches sacred geometry that reveals the presence and care of a divine creator everywhere. A rose blooms outward from the pressure of an inside fullness. When God is the teacher, the direction is inward out. And then she says, she teaches these 5 things all over the place. You just have to look for it and you'll see it. So the 5 things: freedom, art, so freedom, mother, arts, balance, inside out. I truly believe that if enough mothers will take these 5 things to heart, we will change the world. So, isn't that lovely? Yeah, there is a transcript. It is in the Catch the Vision resource manuals, and those are free. You can get them free. You can just look at them online, or you can buy them and then you have them in the book. So, but you can get them just online, or you can go to the Take 5s and listen to it there. I don't think there was a transcript there, but sorry, that was my answering a direct message to me. But isn't that beautiful? And isn't that so hopeful? I just love it. Yeah, Jen.
I was just a little confused on the last 2. Like, she said, mind, you need to include the mind, not just the heart. But then inside out, it went back to like, it sounded like she was comparing mind and heart again, but saying we need to focus on the heart.
It's all about the balance, and it is starting with the heart. She talks so much about starting with the heart, so you develop a love for those things and an appreciation for those things, so that you have a place now to file away the facts and the other pieces that are more the mind. And then as you advance in that learning and you combine the heart and mind, then you have this creative outlet. And there's something beautiful and wonderful comes from this. You know, what we're doing is we're trying to motivate us and all of those around us to get to that creative state. That's how we have music and art and all of these beautiful, wonderful stories and things, is people got to that creative part, right? Where they were inspired to create. And as we use these patterns for learning in our own lives, this heart and mind, then we get to that next part that is that fulfillment, that creation, and we start creating beautiful things. it's a layering process, learning these principles and seeing how they apply in our lives. So I have a visitor. I have a visitor different than the kind you guys get. Mine's very short too, but it's only because he's crawling. Okay, it's a reminder for me. I have 15 minutes. Thank you. Oh, I really want to turn the camera on him, but I'm not going to do that to him. Okay, so thoughts? What do you think? Do you feel inspired by that? Are you kind of starting to see? Yeah, Liddell.
I wanted to share something for Jen's question
Thank
about
you.
the balance between heart and mind. My son loves dinosaurs, and yesterday we were out in the yard and he was digging a hole in the yard, like a huge hole, dirt everywhere, dug up the grass. And I let him go because I'm trying to let him explore and play. Later on in the evening, I found out that what he was doing was he was digging a hole so that he could pretend he was a paleontologist. And he wanted to grab sticks from around the yard and arrange them so that they could look like a dinosaur skeleton. Now, I could never have assigned that activity to him. If I had said, okay, you're going to dig a hole and you're going to pretend you're a paleontologist and you're going to create a skeleton and you're going to find dinosaurs, thinking this is a really exciting, awesome application for him, it wouldn't have worked. And so first he needed to fall in love with dinosaurs. And that happened because of the exposure from books he has, from toys, from learning about it. And that was his desire. Like, he wants to learn about dinosaurs. So when we're learning about animals, sure, let's learn about dinosaurs. Then once he had that love on his own, he wanted to continue and pursue and explore and get new ideas. And I've seen that in a lot of areas with my children, where if they learn to love something first, which is the heart, then eventually that desire will extend into facts and, well, what else can I learn about it? And then they turn into scientific knowledge.
That is such a great example. And I love that your mind works and you can think of examples, because I can't. And so that's beautiful. And how sweet is that? How wonderful that you were open to learning what he did, what it was that he was trying to do. I remember there's a little story, and I wouldn't be able to find it fast enough, but from this book, this I Love Books. And I used to tell it regularly to moms that would come and meet with me. And it is this idea. It says, when your children are out playing, let them just go out and play. Don't dictate their play. Don't teach them how to play. Just let them go. Let their imaginations take them wherever it's going to take them, and be careful not to interrupt that play. And then there was this scenario it presented that you go outside and there's a general and he's in the middle of his battle and he is directing his men where they need to go and what they need to do. And he's in the middle of that. And you've just come and reminded him that he needs to tie his shoes. You've just sucked all of that excitement and momentum out of his, as he's going on to battle, and so be sensitive to what it is that they are doing out there, that they're doing great, wonderful, and important things. So I just loved that. And I keep that picture in my mind often. Yeah, Jen.
So maybe it's like our responsibility as mothers is more to focus on the heart. Although we don't neglect the mind and think we don't want to do anything, academic, but our focus is more on inspiring. And then when they desire and ask for the academics, then we provide the resources for that.
Yeah. Go back to your TJ Ed quote, right? Inspire, not require.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just, it's not the model we're used to. It's not what we're used to. And so it's hard to trust in that. But it's heaven's model. So if we remember that, it's heaven's model. So it's okay to trust that. In fact, it's best to trust that. It's just we're not used to it. Any other moms? Or Jen, did you have more you wanted to say about that?
I was just wondering if by saying balance and you need the mind also, is she saying we need to do more academic type things?
It'll
or
come.
Is she just saying, but
it will come. I know it's
that
hard. We're
thing, even though I've been doing this for a long time,
I
still have that thing well, I probably should do more structure and more math. And...
No, it's like we have our hand like this, like I'm gonna hang on to this curriculum and this routine, and it's like no, 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 no. Come on, open your fingers, let it go. But it's so hard for us to let that go. Yeah, Linnell.
I have another example with this past week. My son was kind of going off the walls and he was all over the place. He wasn't his normal regulated self. And so I was curious about his behavior and I was pondering this. And I had a recent conversation with a friend who shared with me her observation is that when our children start to act out abnormal, we're not to their behavior, it could be that they need more stimulation. And it could be mental stimulation or it could be more responsibility. It could be just they need more. And so as a mom, you can have inspiration as to what that means. But our routine is kind of up in the air. We packed up our books and my children don't have their typical environment or their typical routine that they're used to. And so I in a moment of inspiration, I realized that my son was looking for more. And so I gave him more. My first instinct would have been to try to calm him down, try to look at the behavior and approach the behavior. But because of that conversation I had with a friend, I realized maybe if I just give him a little bit more to stimulate his mind, that could help settle him. And so I gave him a kiwi crate that was lying around our house that hadn't been used yet. And he just took off with that. So what I learned from that is that I think sometimes, I think our children will let us know when they need more mind stimulation. And we need to be aware of that development, that it will happen, and then be prepared for resources to give them so that we can help them in their development and in their growth. Because if we mistaken their behavioral acting out as just a behavior problem, then we could lose the opportunity to expand their mind. And I do think that is important and necessary. I think Marlene thinks that as well. If we're not neglecting it, we're just preparing the rich soil so that when it's time to do all the academics they want to, and they do it on their own, and they take off.
I love it. That's beautiful. That's so good.
Can I
Okay,
add
so
to that?
yeah. Oh yes, please, Laura.
We had that exact same thing happen in our house as well. I have an 11-year-old son who I like the 6th grade is when you start kind of introducing the math and pushing the math a little bit more. And he was fighting it, but I required and like put it in a notebook. Here's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, gave him assignments. And he at first was, balking and stuff like that. But then once he started getting into the routine, he gets up and that's the first thing he's doing every morning. And I can see the change in him with requiring that, but he needed it. Like his heart needed that. He needed me to guide him to that. And then he grew and ran with it and has fallen in love with it. And so I think that the balance it truly is finding that fine balance and then being in tune as a mother as to when your children need certain things, and then having the resources, just like Linnell said, and being able to be like, okay, here you go, let's introduce you to this. And yeah, I might require it a little bit at first, but then they fall in love and they run with it. And it's so exciting to watch them grow that way.
I love that. It's beautiful. There's so many, gosh, we could have so many conversations that branch off on this. There's so many places to go. So I feel like, I've just opened this up, just like barely opened it up, but please go back, review these things, go over these things, look more at the 5 things, pray about it. How does this fit into my life with my family? What do I do from here? How do I use this? What does this look like in my family? And then let's talk more next Friday about it. And again, like I said, I'm sorry, but I have to give up my camera. So we're going to go to Linnell for a little wrap up, and then we'll close for today. But please ponder about these things that we've talked about today, and then we'll go from there. So Linnell.
I really enjoyed this discussion. I think it's fundamental truths, very important. And I've been pondering a lot on Shari's question about the media or games and how her children use that, because it's so important to allow our children that freedom. And I had a conversation recently with a friend about parenting, about freedom, about letting our children learn from their choices. And I think this is an area that is really difficult to let go of control. And I have definitely experienced that. So as I watch my children make choices and live their lives, I think that I'm happiest in my role as a mother if I teach them the expectations or the results or the outcomes that I have learned from my experience, and then step back and allow them to learn from that. And so the example that Lori gave with her daughters taking too much junk food, like if I were a parent in that situation, I would say, yes, you can take the food, because she can, right? She can take whatever she wants. And if you take the food, your tummy might get upset. And then you let your child make that decision. And then she's going to probably want to take the food. And then after, when she realizes, oh, my tummy's upset, actually, my mom told that's a way to build connection, because our children learn that, oh, my mom knows things and my mom sees things and my mom is actually trying to help me. And I found that when I try to restrict my children and give them a firm no, because I'm trying to protect you, I'm trying to help you, I want to avoid these uncomfortable moments for you, they don't want that. And so I'm learning that over and over. And so I don't know, Shari, if in your case, if you were to tell your children what you could see or predict or what you learned from your experience, and apply this to anything for our children, that gives us a position of care, I think, that when our children do make the choices that they make and have the outcomes that our parents knew, then they can say, oh, Mom, you were right. I think it takes time. I think it takes lots of these experiences building upon each other in order for our children to finally get it. But that's the same with me, right? That's the same experience where he teaches me and he invites me, he tells me what to expect, and I still choose, and he gives me that freedom. And so I like that freedom is that first one, because if we can really learn to hone in the skill and truly give our children that freedom, I think that will allow them to learn all the rest of the principles as well.
I love it. Thank you
That's so
much.
helpful.
Linnell is good at bringing all of that together. So thank you. And Shari, this is something we'll come and discuss more. It's a good and important discussion.
I'd just like to say one thing really quick about that, if I could. Are we out of time?
I have got to give the camera up. If you can make it super, super quick, I've got to hand this over.
It's pretty quick. When I had the whole family quit all games cold turkey, I had this vision of what I wanted our home to be. But then several months forward, I learned, because of hard experience, because I could sense things weren't quite where they should be. Heavenly Father taught me that my perfectionism, because that's what it was I was trying to create, was this beautiful home environment. My perfectionism was blocking intimacy, which means I was not able to really connect with the people in my home, because I was so set on how I wanted our home to be a sanctuary. And so the whole concept of freedom is, I think, where I need to approach it this time, because I see it rising up again. I see my fears rising up about, all the quick instant gratification stuff that they are wanting. But I'm so grateful and hopeful for this conversation, because I know I can't go the other route that I did last time, which is just to require it and limit it and have it off limits completely, because they need to choose. Yeah, just thought I'd share that.
Lori? I think Lori's gone.
Yep, I think we lost her. She had to give up her camera, but that was really good. I just was making a comment in the notes to go with Shari's thing that, I think sometimes we get so set on the future and what we want our family to look like. And I think those are good visions and goals to have, but then we have to remember to be present. I think sometimes we get stuck in the future.
I love that.
Yes,
Maybe,
I like that, Ida.
maybe we should just turn it over to Linnell.
I think we already did.
Yeah, we
Oh,
did.
you did?
Yeah. So I think we're done. So
Okay.
we can continue any conversations in Marco Polo.
Thank you, everyone.